Hi guys, welcome back to Harping on the Past,
A Theater Kid podcast where we talk about theater, past, present, and probably the future. And you guys, once again, this is now the second week where we have a new person on the couch, and we are not in our usual location. I am joined by a very good friend of mine. I'm going to let him introduce himself really quick.
Hi, my name's Halin Moss.
Hi. Welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast.
Yeah, it's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah. Guys, so last week we had the wonderful Kiara come on the podcast, and I'm joined by another friend and cast member of mine from 1222 Oceanfront, A Black Family Christmas. And I thought it'd be fun to talk about whatever we want to talk about today, because that's what this is, this Theater Kid podcast. So, Halin, I just want to know a little bit more about you. Like, how did you get started into theater, and what made you want to, get into it? And like, how did you end up here at New Village Arts?
Yeah. Okay. Me and theater go way back.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a performing arts school. First of all, I was always artistic. I always knew I wanted to do something in art, and to me, I just didn't know what that was.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew I liked performing. I liked to sing. And so I auditioned to get into my high school, which was a performing arts school.
Okay, Hollywood Arts Victorious.
Yeah. Shout out to Thomas Charter School in Sacramento.
Hey.
I auditioned with the song there. I got in for singing. And honestly, I wasn't really excelling in singing over there. And it was a very predominantly Caucasian school.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really diverse
Yeah.
there. And so I just always had a hunger in me to stand out. I just always wanted to stand out in this school. And so I did try acting. I was very shy with it at first. I'm a very soft-spoken person naturally. So I was just very shy coming into it, but I really worked hard and I really wanted to be better at it.
Of course.
And so I think by the time junior year came around, I won a gold medal for a monologue I did called The Mountaintop.
So
from a play called The Mountaintop.
You are literally an award-winning actor, so that's so cool.
Well, it was a cool moment at the time.
Yeah.
But just me, myself, even at that young age, I just wanted like more, and I wanted to be in film, and watching people like Chadwick and just starting from a school that I didn't really feel supported at this school. Mm-hmm. And so I found like self-motivation to support myself, and I really worked hard. And so I really work hard in acting, and that's why I think I just excelled at it the way that I did. And I just found a love for it because working hard, I would really study other actors and actresses who inspired me, just like the really good ones, and I would watch them and I would practice in the mirror. I'd put my phone like right next to the mirror, and I'd like look up video clips from like some of my favorite movies, mm-hmm. and I would like act to them in the mirror while the video clip is playing, and I would look at the actor and compare myself to them in the mirror. And I would just do this like on like a normal Wednesday night. And
no, I love that. That's super cool.
Yeah, and so that was just like my practice, and I really worked hard, and that's just basically how I got started with acting, and where the foundation was laid. And I think a lot of it just came from self-motivation and just wanting to do something in art, but I also wanted to be like the best that I could be at it. And
I love that. That is so freaking cool, and it makes me feel so much more normal when I hear other people who are like, I just did this in my bedroom and like studied and did stuff like that. Because I'm sure I've talked about it before on here, but I was a Disney Channel kid. Like, I loved watching Disney Channel.
Love it.
And
That's So Raven.
Raven, Zack and Cody, Wizards of Waverly Place. Like, those were my shows that I loved, and I feel like I picked up such a big sense of comedic timing from, because Disney Channel, despite what people want to say, they are very good at coaching and training their actors to be good with their beats and their timing.
I agree. Especially old Disney Channel.
Yeah. But even the new ones, like, regardless of the writing, we studied this in one of my college courses, and our professor was like, the beats are so clean, like they are really, really good at sticking to it. But
Right.
yeah, no, I used to perform scenes by myself in front of my mom and my grandma from Zach and Cody at her house.
Wow.
Like I
I
would,
was always scared to do that with my family.
I mean, if it was just my mom and my grandma, yes.
Yeah.
Anytime they were like, show other people, I'm like, no, I'm okay.
Wow.
That's okay. But for my mom and my grandma, I'd be like, okay, I'll make an exception. And I would play every single role because it was just me, myself, and I. But yeah, no, that's super, super neat. So did you have like, what was like one of your first moments, like finally getting in theater, like on stage, like one of your first shows?
Okay, so like I mentioned before, the mountaintop was like my first big thing. I've never won an award before. I've never been taken seriously as an actor before because I was a soft-spoken person. I was quiet. The school wasn't very diverse, so I didn't get a lot of roles, period. And so that moment in time for me was just this huge moment because I got recognized by the school.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, doing that monologue from the mountaintop as Martin Luther King Jr., the school actually had me perform at like parent teacher conferences and do all these different things to kind of like advertise the school.
They said, you will perform.
Right.
You're going on tour.
Right. And they just had me do that. And then my first big role, I would say, was when I played Walter Lee Younger in Lorraine Hansberry's Raisin in the Sun.
Okay. Good
Yeah,
one.
love that
Good
play
one.
down.
Yeah.
Love it down. I already was familiar with the play with Sidney Poitier, who did it in the movie in like the 50s. And I already loved the show. And so doing the show was just another big challenge for me because it was my first lead role.
Yeah.
And so I like recognize like the weight that has on you to
Yes.
carry a show, and like the show is kind of on your back. And so that was actually not really nerve-wracking but exciting because it was with a lot of my friends and we all supported each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really had a good time, and the experience, I would say, being a play that was predominantly an African-American play written by an African-American playwright, directed by someone who wasn't African-American. It was really interesting how that director approached that. Didn't really agree with everything that we did in that area.
Right.
But it was an experience, and I got a lot of character inspiration from my mom, because what they were telling me, Walter, the character, is very angry about the world, and he's just trying to work his way up and make money in a society that won't allow him to. And so I just didn't know how to approach that, because the director and some people were telling me, oh, be angry. And it was kind of giving off this angry black man image, which is what I was doing. But speaking to my mom about the character, and my mom, thank you, Mom, she has a lot of great insight. She helps me a lot. Speaking to her about the character and just the character's main intentions throughout the show, and how he's not so much angry, he's just frustrated that he can't provide for his family the way that he wants to. And because he has all these obstacles stopping him from reaching his goal. Just talking to her and her giving me those insights really helped me, and really helped the character, really helped me develop the character.
Of course, yeah.
And that was such a pivotal moment, I would say.
This was all in high school, right?
This was all in high school, yeah.
I forget. You went to a performing arts high school, so it sounds like you guys really got to like dive into those things.
Yeah. I would say, well, I don't want to throw this high school under the bus too much, but I would say, I don't know how controversial I'm supposed to be on here, but
I mean, listen, you can say whatever you want. Like,
okay, great.
We've talked about things where we're like, we're going to keep it real. You know, like sometimes things, are not handled well, and we keep it honest.
Period. Well, I'm going to keep it real. I'm just going to say that I just feel like I did a lot of self-training, which is probably why I developed the way I did, and I'm very hard on myself, and I really want the performance to be great. I would say that even though going to performing arts high school, I don't feel like I got a lot of formal training.
How interesting. Okay.
I learned a lot of formal training, but because I was kind of overlooked, I just wanted to stand out. So I would look at, I wanted to be a good actor, but I also wanted to stand out. So I'd also look at, what is my style? What is my style like? How can I stand out from this guy? And I'm just going to say this now because I don't do this anymore, but I would watch like the good actors of the class, and I would watch them and be like, how can I be better than them? What do they have that I don't?
But I mean, I think that's totally normal. And I, admittedly, I did that too.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I wanted to prove that I could do, like, I could have the lead in a show, that I was worthy and good enough to perform. And I just felt like so many people, especially this one person, was always getting those leads. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? You know, and it's not necessarily that we're doing anything wrong. It's just people just aren't able to see just how great we are.
Exactly.
And but no, I totally relate to the self-training thing.
With that, like with the what am I doing wrong? I think within theater and within this business, there's a lot of aspects that come into play, and it's not always who's the most talented. It's always,
So, you know,
because in my case, it was like a lot of favoritism, and there's race problems as well, and there's just a lot of, and it's like, it's true. It's based on who you know.
Yeah.
Who do you know that can get you to this spot? And so that's what I am learning still is, to make it in this business, everyone is talented. Everyone can be talented. But what I learned from a very, very early age in that time was talent can get you far, but it's like, who do you know? How do you communicate with this person to get this role? Because I don't know, I don't feel like I was a favorite, but I feel like, I don't know, I had to kind of take on a personality that made me likable in order to get a role. And now I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. I just want to be myself.
Right.
But it's just a really hard business, I just feel like. And I just learned that from an early age from high school that, there's a lot that come into play. It's not always talent. It's just, I don't know. How do you speak? Maybe someone likes how you speak.
Yeah.
Maybe someone likes how you look. There's a lot of actors in the business that just look a certain way and just have this role, and they're not always the best actor, but they just look a certain way, and the casting director might have liked their look, so they got it. And I just learned that from high school.
This is getting so deep, and I love it. But I mean, you're absolutely right, and I totally didn't have that realization until maybe, honestly, probably my senior year. I think I really, in my high school experience, totally was like, this is all based on the talent. And because, you know, there were talented kids, very, very talented people that were in this department. And I was like, well, I must just suck. And it wasn't until my senior year, we were doing Oklahoma. And I got cut after the first round of callbacks, which normally if that happens, it's kind of like, oh, okay, you're probably not getting anything too big if you got cut that early. But I still got a decent sized role in the show. And that's when I was like, that's probably mostly because I already know, I was a senior. I knew the director. I knew the music director. You know, it's like that played to my strengths. It's like I may have had an off day at that callback, but they still gave me the role. And that's just,
but
you know,
you also do get things because you deserve them, and you're talented as well.
Stop this right now.
I'm just saying there's a bunch of elements, but
I appreciate you.
That role.
No, I appreciate you. The callback, no, I'm gonna keep it real. The callback was not my best callback, but no, as are you. Like, I've worked with you. Just, it's crazy, like, to think like we've only like really known each other and worked together for like about a month and like a couple weeks. But like in that time, like, you're an incredible singer. And
Thank you.
your commitment to your character is just so amazing. And I love seeing how your character in 1222 has developed from where we started to where we are now in our final weekend of performances. So, yeah, I just want to say, like,
thank you so much.
Of course.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
That means a lot.
Yes. So, before we continue on, we do this bit on this podcast called Why Am I Getting Hired or Why Am I Getting Fired? And I thought of one yesterday after I was performing on stage and was like, oh my gosh, I have to talk about this. So I'm going to go first because last podcast I did a hired. So this week I'm going to get a fired. And I'm getting fired because I cannot be asleep on stage. I'm horrible at it. When I tell you, if they're like, oh yeah, just close your eyes on stage and be asleep. I cannot do it for more than 10 seconds. I am constantly peeking, looking around, or adjusting myself. And like, I have changed how my character is in those final moments of that scene many, many times. Because I'm like, I can't keep my eyes closed. I'm getting so antsy. And I'm like, I need to know what everything looks like on stage.
Right.
And I also, like, I'm terrible to it, like, looking into the audience to, like, see, like, who I know is out there. Just, the glance. And like, yep, there they are.
There's just so much going on. It's just hard to be asleep.
No, it's so hard. And my character in the show is asleep for a good portion of his stage time.
Exactly.
So I definitely, like, if you look closely, you will see my eyes like lift up a little bit, and I am peeking to like see what's going on.
You play that character so great.
Thank you.
Yeah, since you're supposed to be high, you're supposed to be high.
Yeah, I'm very intoxicated, heavily medicated.
You play that so well.
Thank you. I've never been high a day in my life. So I'm kind of just going on guesswork.
I can't tell.
Thank you. Well, thank you. No, it's so fun, but I would say that's why I'm getting fired. Like if they ever found out, I'd be like, yeah, sorry, just keep me awake on stage.
Well, I'm getting fired too because adding on to that, my character in this show is supposed to be angry. Spoiler. Are we allowed to give spoilers?
By the time this comes out, the show will have already been passed. So
spoiler. I'm just mad because my mom's boyfriend comes, and I'm just supposed to be mad during the most fun scenes, which is after intermission, Act 2. I'm supposed to be mad, and he sings this. Victor, the character, my mother's boyfriend in the show, he sings this cowboy song.
Yes.
And it's just the most fun song. And I'm just supposed to sit there and frown.
And be upset.
And I just want to laugh so hard. And it's so hard for me not to laugh. And the other night, I was about to laugh. And so what I did was I turned my head to like the back wall so people didn't see me laugh. Course. Because they can't see me laugh. I'm supposed to be angry. And so here I am just upstaging myself, like trying to turn my head so people don't see me. And it was hilarious. I'm getting fired because of that. But
no, I love that.
I don't know.
No, that's such a good one. I'm surprised. I don't think I've ever done anything said anything like that for getting fired. But I mean, the ways to like, I know I've come so close to breaking on stage and like how I have to like now interpret that break into either like a cough or like a reason why the character would be reacting that way is insane. Like you guys almost made me break a few nights ago. I don't know who was the audience was laughing. You're about to get hugged by the character Javier, and I'm sitting on the bench, and I'm like moving, and I don't know if they were laughing at what I was doing or what the other actor was doing, but there's a lot of stuff going on, and I totally just got caught off guard because I don't think there ever used to be a laugh at that spot. And I started to break, and I had the water, and I just started drinking the water.
Oh my God.
I was like, it's so sweet. Thank you. But yeah.
I will say I am getting hired. I'm going to add this in too.
Please do. I like this.
I am getting hired because there was a cue that was wrong. There was a song that was supposed to start, and it did not start when it was supposed to start. And so what happened was I just had to improv, and it was taking long, and me and my scene partner Kiki, who's also going to be on this podcast.
Yeah, she was on it already. Yeah.
Yeah. We had to improv this part until the song came on, and we did a phenomenal job.
You did. I heard the entire thing. I was back here. I was listening on the monitor. I was like, that music hasn't started.
And the thing is, improv for me, I have never done an improv class. I'm so scared of improv. But for some reason on stage, it's not as scary. But to be in an improv class, to me, it's scary to like do all those games and stuff. But when something goes wrong on stage and you have to like quickly think of something, I'm like, okay, I got it.
Like, like there's that audience, like there's just a different mindset. It's kind of like that fight or flight kind of thing.
Right. Like there was this one time I was doing this show and I'm supposed to bring on a flask, and I have a whole line about a flask, and I don't know what happened. I just forgot the prop. And I said, shoot, I have this line about the flask. So I'm sitting and I'm like not holding my flask, and I'm about to say my line. And then I say, ugh, I wish I had my flask, but if I did, I would toast to this moment right here. And
you said yes.
And my director's like, oh God. But it worked. The audience didn't know. The audience does not know. It's all in your head. Sometimes.
And those moments of panic feel so much longer to you.
They do.
Than how it actually is. And I feel like the only people who might know are, if you've like studied theater a lot, which most of the audience hasn't, you can tell probably. You could be like, I think there was something that was supposed to be there and there wasn't. Right. I wonder what that was. But, because I understudy for you, so I know your track. And so sometimes I'll be listening in and be like, oh, yeah, I know exactly where we are. I know what's going on. And then when I heard that happening in the show, I was like, oh, I probably would have panicked. So good for you for keeping it up.
And things happen with the live show. It's a live show. So
that's theater.
Things are, that's just theater. That's
theater,
bound
baby.
to happen. So to be ready for that, and you always feel a sense of accomplishment, or at least I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
When like you get out of it and it's clean and it's perfect, and the audience, it wasn't too noticeable. I always feel a sense of accomplishment, like, okay, I got through that.
Yeah,
let's keep moving. So
I will say too, 'cause good for you for being able to come up with stuff on the spot. I'm not as good at it, but I feel like I'm pretty good at thinking of scenarios that could happen. Like in the rehearsal process, I'm like, they might forget to put this prop on stage one night. What can I do if that happens? And I've done that. That happened to me in high school. And I'm like, if this happens, this is what I could do. And it did happen one night. Like they forgot to put the books. My character's reading a book, and I'm like, all right. And I was like, let me see if I can remember this story, and then started doing that. Cause
oh my God,
I was like, I know things happen in theater. Accidents happen, craziness happens backstage. So I feel
always have to be on your toes.
You always have to be ready. You never know what's going to go down. But it's very cool that people can stay calm in those situations. And even our whole cast, because one night I think we skipped 2 pages worth of...
Believe me, we're not calm. Everything going on inside of my head is like, shit. But from the outside,
that's right. But you're presenting that calm front, and that's what counts. That's what matters.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So something that I really, really wanted to get into with you, because I don't think we've ever had a guest on this podcast that has also been a director as well as an actor.
Yes.
And I've been really obsessed lately, ever since these strikes have ended, thank goodness. But they've been doing a lot of actors on actors interviews and a lot of directors on directors interviews. And I'm like, this is my moment to have like a director on director conversation. Nice. And I'm so excited.
Are you a director?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've done it, but I have directed.
I've not heard this story.
I've directed a couple of things and assistant directed.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it's been a minute, but I do want to get back into it. And I'm currently actually assistant directing with the middle school production right now. And
that's right.
Yes, they're doing a show of Bye Bye Birdie Jr., which is very, very cool.
Nice.
But Yes, no, let's talk about directing.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
All
So, my first show that I directed was my senior year of high school, and it was nice because it was only about like a 45 to like 50-minute piece, and it was something that I had acted in previously, and I didn't have the pressures of like having to like cast like strangers because we just cast from our classroom. And then we had all the set rehearsal times because it was set in school. So that was like a very chill directing experience. And then when I went on in life to go on and direct my first big thing by myself, it really was just you don't feel that kind of pressure until you're in the director's chair. So what was the first thing that you had ever like directed?
I agree with that. Same senior year of high school, I directed. It was a theater festival called Theater Fest. At that time, I was directing and producing it. And at that time, I was obsessed. Yeah. Well, at that time, I was obsessed with the 50s and 60s, the golden age of Hollywood. So that starts, that's like the 20s through the early 60s.
Yeah.
And I was so obsessed with it. James Dean is one of my favorite actors ever. So I decided to produce a film festival that... not a film festival. It's like a theater festival, and we perform like different scenes from. Usually it's like different plays and things like that. But my idea was to take these old films and take like monologues and scenes from them and perform them as theater. And oh my God, it was so. This is a real show, a real podcast. I was so stressed. Because I was not like I said, I had to work my way up to getting a lead role, and this was my first time directing, and I was not supported. And I've seen all the other students be supported, so I was expecting the same thing, but this was my first time directing. It was so hard. I'm just going to say that right now. It was so hard. But we got it done, and I wanted a good show. I like a quality show. I had a hard time. It was my first time, so I had a hard time organizing my thoughts. I had a lot of thoughts. I had a lot of ideas, and I just had a hard time putting that into play. And I just remember a lot of other students having the same struggle, but they got the support for it, and I didn't. So I was kind of on my own for that, which was like so difficult. But we got it done, and it looked really good from the outside, but from the inside, I'm just not gonna lie, it was a mess. The most recent time I directed, that was at UC Santa Cruz.
Okay.
That was, love that show. That was for a thing, that they put on every year. It's called Poets Corner.
Okay.
And it's kind of like the same concept but different, because we have a select group of poets, and they write poems, and we turn those poems into a show.
Oh, very cool.
And that was so fun. And that one, I direct with 3 other directors. And it was a challenge just because we're dealing with older people. I'm working with 3 other directors.
So like creative
differences
and all that. Yeah,
a lot of creative differences, visions, ideas that we had to like run by each other, and things like that. And that time of like that directing experience, I'm still learning. I think we're all still learning. Life is a learning game. You have to learn.
Yes.
And I'm still learning. I was still learning at that moment. And I'm just going to be transparent. One thing I learned how I was directing before was, I have this idea. I want you to do it. I want the actor to do it this way. And I wasn't really collaborating with the actor on and giving them creative freedom, because our actors are artists as well. And that's what I wasn't really taking into consideration. So I was organized. This time I was organized. I knew what I was doing. But a lot of people were not happy with the fact that they didn't get a lot of creative freedom. And all three directors were doing that. And it wasn't until like midway through the process when I was like, okay, we're being bad directors. I need to change this approach. And so I sat everyone down on our next rehearsal and I said, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm still learning. I'm a student. I'm a student director, and I'm just going to be transparent with y'all. I'm still learning how to direct properly.
Yep.
And I apologize. Well, I apologize on behalf of the three of us because there were three directors. And I said, I apologize. We have been bad directors, and we're going to try to listen to you guys and do better and hear your guys' ideas because you guys are writing the poems. So you guys should have a say. And this just counts for everything, even just doing another show. An actor has like their own idea of how the character is, and the director is there to guide them and direct them, not dictate what they do. And I just felt like we were doing that before. And so from that day on, I learned how to direct, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because everyone felt the vibe of the show changed. Everyone felt more comfortable. The show is great. The show is great.
I bet.
I'm also, as a director, I don't know about you, but I'm also, I just like to be involved with every detail of the process. Because some directors are like, oh, well, lighting designers know what they're doing. And that's okay because they do know what they're doing. But for me, when we were teching, I sat in the lighting booth and we were just going over lights. And I was just very detailed about what I wanted to do with that. And yeah, it was frustrating. We fought. And that's just how it is. It's just, we're all students at this time. And so we're all trying to learn how to communicate. And so, but I would say that that experience taught me a lot about how to direct. Properly, professionally, how to work with other artists and acknowledge them as artists as well.
Well, because not only were they actors, they were the writers of the poems.
They were the writers of the poems.
So they were, actors and writers, like, and I know, like, that must be such an interesting, because, you want to have, your acting freedoms, but then also, like, your writing freedoms, because, like, the story and what you wrote and what was going on in your head. So to collaborate with the director, it's just, it's a very complex thing to do.
Exactly. And adding on to that, since they wrote it, I also wanted them to have a say in the lighting as well, because we just had that time. And usually you don't always have that time, but we had that time. So I said, we did an exercise and I said, just draw how you see your piece.
Oh, I love that.
And
that's so cool.
Yeah. And they drew it. Me and the other two directors, we looked everything over, came up with an idea of how we wanted the lights to go, brought it to the lighting people. They put stuff up. We tech till like 2 a.m. We were there so long. My God.
Those tech rehearsals though.
And tech rehearsals, God, because our teacher at the time only gave us like 5 hours to do tech, and that was just crazy. I love him though, so this is not a diss, but 5 hours is ridiculous.
Yes. No, I agree. Well, I mean, because my college, our tech rehearsals were like 12 hours, 12-hour tech, and but I mean, as an actor, most of the time we weren't called until like the later half. So, so like about 5-6 hours for us. But I was always the early person, and I would be there and just watching everything. And I'm like, God, theater is hard.
Theater is hard.
Theater is hard.
What did you learn from your experience? Like, did you guys have any hiccups or anything?
No, of course we did. So I mean, like I said, I directed for senior year, and then in my, I guess it was I just graduated college, and I graduated during COVID, so I wanted to go back to really get our final moment on that stage. And the show that I directed was a sequel to a show we had done in 2019 called Boeing Boeing, and the sequel was called Don't Dress for Dinner. And I've talked about this on the podcast before, so bear with me, y'all. But yeah, there were a lot of things. First of all, that like I feel like I was like you, like wanting to be involved in all of the creative things when it comes to the show, but mostly because I didn't realize like that there were people whose that was like specifically their job. And it's very hard, especially in college, because it's like people are volunteering their time, like, so it's very hard to like, you know, no one's getting paid for this, like we're all just doing this for the love of it. But yeah, no, I had a co-director with me, but I was the producer of the project. So for me, I don't know what producing entailed for you, but for me, I paid for everything in the show.
With your own money?
With my own money. I saved.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So because I wanted to do this project, and
That's
and I didn't make any money back because of the legalities of things and using the school's facility.
Right.
So yeah, I paid for the rights of the show. I paid for the costumes, the set pieces, the props.
I did not do that.
Yeah. So I was really like financially responsible for everything, and I had to, you know, create the rehearsal schedules, find a stage manager, and get the cast back together. And then we had a casting problem 3 weeks before we opened. We had to recast that character, and I think I told you about that before, and just what a mess that was. But yeah, having that, I think the hardest thing was because I was directing the project, but I was also one of the leads. So having that line between, yeah, I know, producer, director, lead. I will never do that again. Let me just say, it's way too hard to do that. But there had to be that line of like being an actor with your co-actors, and then also being a director to that person. And that was very, very hard, because these aren't only like cast members and coworkers and colleagues. These are friends. Like, these are people like that I am genuinely friends with. And so like, it's hard to direct people like that, because you don't want to, you know, you talk and act a certain way around your friends, and you want them to respect you as a director. And that was very, very hard to do. But I agree with you, wanting to give them creative liberties and freedoms. I'm like, I feel I'm a very collaborative director. What is your idea for this character? What is your idea for how the scene is supposed to be? And then I'll tell you what I think, and let's see what we can find to like compromise and make something special out of it. And I'm gonna keep it real. As a producer, sometimes I would beef with my co-director, and nothing too serious, but about some lighting things, or like some,
it happens.
You know, like there were some moments in the show, because it is a comedy, so like, and it is a sex comedy, so like sometimes there'd be some jokes that may not have aged well, and so we of course talked to the publishers, and we were able to adjust some things we just adjusted, and we just did it. And my co-director was like, I don't know how I feel about this, like I think we need to add music or something to it. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. And he was like, no, but I think we should. I was like, right, but that's not what this kind of show is. I'm like, we're not doing a movie, like we're not adding a song here for this moment. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Too familiar. Yeah.
And I finally was like, because it was this back and forth, like, because, you know, we're co-directors, and then finally I was like, I'm the producer of the project. I get the final say. I'm sorry. I was like, and we're not doing it. Because already, you know, because being a co-director, there was collaboration. Like, there was a lot of like extra lighting and sound cues that my co-director wanted to put in. And for me, this type of show is very much a lights up, lights down. That's all we needed, because that's what this kind of show is. But so I collaborated and let him do his thing, and admittedly, I liked what he came up with, and I thought it made sense. Some of it, I still don't understand creatively, but that's okay. I'm still very, very proud of the project that we put on, despite all the problems. I have learned, as a director, I will always now hire an understudy for my projects. And probably because a big part too about shows is advertising, and my advertiser was my co-director. And then when we had that big casting problem, all of our advertising kind of went down the tube because we were focusing on retraining a new actor and getting them into the swing of things. So we lost all this PR, and I feel like my cast deserved a much bigger audience that they didn't get, but that's just me.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is something.
Yeah.
That just brings up a lot of memories with my co-directors. I love them. I can't talk bad about them. We did have,
like, first of all, no shade or disrespect. I still love this person very, very much, and I will work with them again. Like, I hope I do.
Right.
But
not that you were. I agree. I agree with that. Is that we did have a lot of creative differences, especially since there were 3 of us working together.
I can't imagine. 3. Okay.
And something you said about your co-director wanting to add music to a certain scene.
Yeah.
And you were like, why? And there were just these things that my co-directors would want to add, and I'd be like, why? And then they would be like, well, I don't know. I don't think it works. But they couldn't like give me a reason. So for me, I was like, well, if you can't give me a reason, then I just don't see the point in doing it. And a lot of it was because I give us this grace because we're still learning. We are student directors. Is that we were student directors at the time. Is that they would compare everything to what they did previous years.
Oh, that's so hard.
Yeah, and I wanted to, like, I'm always trying to stand out and be innovative, like I talked about in my high school days. So I wanted to do something else, and I was like, well, this isn't last year. This is this year. This is now.
Yeah.
So we would have this back and forth going on, and it got to a point. I remember one time we were directing, and we had a creative difference, and it was in front of everybody. And I was like, this is not gonna happen right now. And so I said, well, what do you guys think? So I pointed to the actors and I said,
intervene.
What do you guys, y'all. Do you want to walk center or do you want to just exit? I forgot what the situation was, but yes, but I was just trying to de-escalate because I was like, we are not doing this right now. This is not gonna happen.
You're like, we are professional people. Like we don't need this energy here.
We don't.
That's so hard. That is so hard. Did you guys have, well, I mean, I guess you wouldn't have to because it was 3 directors, but did you guys have like a stage manager or assistant director to help you guys out with these things?
Good question. I was the stage manager. We did have a stage manager, but something happened. That didn't fall through.
So you ended up doing it?
Well, I wasn't officially the stage manager, but I was calling cues. It was crazy. I couldn't even watch my own show that I directed because I was in the back making sure everything was good.
Was going well. Yeah.
And I was running back and forth from backstage to the audience, and I just couldn't relax. And every time there was a problem, I would be like, ugh, and I'd run backstage, figure it out.
Scrambling.
The audience didn't know there was a problem. But that was the point. I just didn't want there to be an obvious problem. And so it was just a crazy experience. I learned so much from it, and that's what I'm grateful for.
Of course, yeah.
But collaborating with 2 other directors, it did teach me a lot about how to do that and compromising and things like that.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
I know for me, I'm very grateful to have had a co-director. Like, there's no way being a producer, an lead actor, and directing the show would have been feasible.
Yeah.
So we had, I was very grateful for my co-director being there. And then we also had, I credited him as my assistant director and a creative consultant, the director of the first piece we did, Boeing. He's a wonderful, wonderful person and human, but he has a family now, so he couldn't commit to the rehearsal schedule, but he would come in on occasion, and I'm like, thank God, because same thing with you. Like, I was just out of college. I had only directed in high school. I'd never directed anything in college, and it's such a scary thing to step now into that role without having any formal training, because my college or university didn't really offer anything like that. I think they offered, after I graduated, like a stage managing class that I heard might have gotten canceled because not enough people signed up for it. But so to have now these people counting on you to lead, and then I've totally made the speech too. I'm like, I apologize. I'm a new director. I'm figuring this out. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm really faking it, and I'm pulling from the directors I've had in the past to be the director that I am right now.
Yeah, one of the things, shout out Benet. Love Benet. We love Benet. You might see Benet in movies one day. That's why I'm shouting Benet out.
That's right.
Benet is, they were someone that I worked with, like previously. I was in a show called Pipeline. I played Amari in that, and they played my mom in that play. And Benet is just the best director, best person. I reached out to Benet and I asked them, how do I talk to actors that, in a way where they can respect me, but also see me as someone I can trust. Just
Yes.
basically, how do I communicate?
Yeah, like make them know like that you are on their side.
Kind of like what you said. And Benet said, just talk to them like a person.
Yes.
And that's how it is. And just be decisive.
Yeah.
And that's all you have to do. And that was literally the best advice, because then I did, and then everything worked out.
Yeah.
And and I still talk to them till this day. Like, there's no animosity.
Yeah.
So it really did work out, and people really respected the fact that I came out and I was honest with them about previously and how I apologized and called myself a bad director, because I was.
I wouldn't say that's something that I had to learn. I wouldn't, we couldn't say that we're bad directors. We're just new.
We're new.
That's and we're learning. We're new learning directors and a little bit inexperienced, and that's okay, because everyone starts somewhere.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that the show turned out well and that everyone had a good time. And I think by the end of the show, I just wanted everyone to have by the end of our rehearsal period, I just wanted everyone to have fun. And I didn't really care about, I cared about the technical elements of the show, but I didn't really prioritize that. I felt like they needed to have fun in order for this show to look authentic, in order for it to be truthful and to work.
Of course.
And so to create that environment for them made the show better.
Yeah.
I just feel like it did. And yeah.
Did you play like any, because I know when I directed, I took stuff from previous directors, and the cast bonding is such a real thing. When we did Boeing, we would do these warm-ups, and we would play these different games before we got into getting into the script. And so I took that from my show, and I was like, okay guys, we're gonna do like this trust exercise. And we would play this game where we would all sit in a row, and one person is like the king, and we send one person out, and we're like, you have to like guess. You have to like, we have to like send the energy. We're like, it's this person, or you're like, it's me. It's like, pick me. So you're trying to like, like with just like a blank face, like sending that energy to like trust one another and like get like an idea of like what's going through someone's mind to like help be present on stage. So I did that. And then I also had my cast write out backstories for their characters. Like, did you do anything like that with your cast members?
Actually, I learned all this in high school, and I used a lot of what I learned in high school as an actor to direct them. What did we do? We had acting exercises. I taught them a lot of acting exercises in the beginning, like the lip trills and things like that. And there's one called shake your hand, shake them up high, shake them behind your back, stop the left one, keep shaking, and then you stop, and then you like feel the blood rushing in your hands, and everyone liked that one. And I don't know, it was called Poets Corner, and everyone had something personal to write, and so I wanted to make it a space where people could feel comfortable opening up.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm a Scorpio. I'm just deep anyway. So like
I love that both okay, so this will be 3 episodes in a row. Our friend Tori was a guest, talked about signs, and then Kiara was on here talking about Kiara was like, I'm a Leo, like immediately, like within like 5 minutes of the podcast.
Right. I'm not
So
into signs like that, but I will say that is true. Scorpios are deep, and I just like talking about deep stuff.
Yeah.
So to create that space, I talked about some of my stuff, and which made them talk about their stuff, and which made them vulnerable enough to write about it. Like one guy wrote about his experience as a transgender man and how that was like, and I just loved how he did it. It was great.
Yeah.
It started off with, oh, my package came, and I forgot it now, but it was like something about his pants came or something. It was just the greatest. And the way he acted it out, shout out Elliot. I love you, Elliot. The way he acted it out was great. Some other people did it about mental health.
Of course.
I don't know. It was a very college type of play, and things that college students go through. And I feel like a lot of that stuff is glossed over because, we're young, and, older generations say, oh, well, I've been through that before, so it doesn't matter. Or, you're just young and you'll learn. But these are very real problems that people go through, and the fact that they were so vulnerable to write about it and present it and act it out, because basically they were acting out themselves and like their inner thoughts, and everyone was so open about it. I can't even remember most of them.
But you just remember that feeling.
So many. I remember what they looked like, but I can't remember what they were specifically about. But I was just so proud of them. I remember I cried on the last day because I was just like, I'm so proud of you guys.
Yeah.
And just the fact that we're still friends today just made me feel like, I did something right, and I created that space for you guys. And for me, that as a director, that was very rewarding.
Of course.
To know special. That they felt that comfortable to do that, and to come and talk to me and ask me for some advice and about how they should word their scene or how they should stage it and things like that.
Yeah, of course.
That was it was just rewarding. I'm so glad I got to do that. Yeah.
It's something, especially like in college, because you guys are all there, like we have that thing in common. Like, we're all at this university. We have different paths, maybe, but in this moment, like, we are here together. And there's just something so special about that.
I'm sorry. I do want to say, another thing that made it very special was, I'm going to shout this out too. Shout out ATAT. ATAT at UC Santa Cruz. Made for students of color. It was like it was a theater art space for students of color. It made me even more happier to participate in this because of Don Williams, who started ATAT. Shout out Don Williams. Look him up. Look up ATAT UC Santa Cruz. He is doing something so special up there, and just creating this space for students of color to have a platform to perform on theater. For me, in a predominant space that is not full of students of color. So to be a part of that as well, and to hear just like different stories and diverse stories of these writers and what they go through in their experience as young men and women of color and to be a director of that, that made it even more rewarding for me, because I didn't come from that. I came from a high school and I was like the only one. And then most theater spaces are not diverse, and you kind of feel you have this imposter syndrome going on.
Of course.
And we don't. If we want to get into that, we can get into that later or something. But just to be a part of that was just so special.
Yeah.
And made it even more rewarding, and made me want to teach them more, because I just want to not teach them, but made me want to make the show even more special, because I didn't really get that chance growing up when someone like took a special interest in me. And so I wanted to take a special interest in them. So when they weren't happy, I was not happy. And I really wanted to create that environment where they felt happy to be in that space. And so, yeah, that was another rewarding thing I wanted to add. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, I love it.
I just wanted to pour that in there.
Yeah, no, it's really, really special, especially because coming from, I felt like there was a good amount of diversity in my high school and in my college, but I mean there's no denying like that there were not always opportunities for everybody, or even I hate saying this, but I've talked about it before, like the department, and I'm so glad they did this, but it wasn't always the best for everybody. Like the department didn't offer a lot of opportunities for the male students on campus. At times I felt like it was like the men have one opportunity to get cast in a show, and I did talk to the department about that. I'm like, that is an issue. And because I'm like, I love the women on our campus, and they work so hard, and they deserve all of this, and I don't want anything taken away from them. I'm like, I'm just asking that the guys of this department also get a chance to show that they are stars too. They're good, yeah. And I think that has improved since I've graduated, and that makes me very, very happy. But moments that are just so special when you're with people who look like you or may not look like you, but know what that's like to feel like they are in that minority. When I was in Boeing, we had the same thing, like this moment to like share stories, and it started off as a joke because I was totally kidding. We were at the end of the rehearsal, and our director was like, anything else? And I was quoting from Wicked, because as everyone knows, Wicked is one of my absolute favorite shows on the planet. But I was like, I know, let's talk about something no one knows about the other person. I'll go first. And because that's a line Glinda says, and they all just genuinely were like, okay, yeah. And I was like, oh God, I didn't actually mean that. Right? But I was like, okay. And then I shared a story, and then we just went around the circle, and the whole cast started just sharing. Some things were serious, and then some things were just funny, which is what we needed, because we were doing a comedy type of show. And it's like, same thing. I don't remember all the details of these stories, but I remember in that moment feeling so happy and being like, I'm in this with other people who have different experiences from me, but also have some very similar ones. And that is super, super special feeling. Rewarding. It's so rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you don't have that a lot, like other people do, to be in those types of spaces. Yeah. It's just, and especially with theater, because a lot of, students of color, a lot of those communities don't have theater programs. And so a lot of people in ATAT came to that school and not as actors, and they found ATAT, and then they decided to switch over to acting or something like that because they turned out to be really good at it, or they turned out to really love it and want to get better at it.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they were able to be given that chance. I think every school should have something like ATAT.
I do too.
This is like ATAT promo right now.
Like, get your school signed up, yo.
And this is, the production I did it under, there's ATAT, which is African American Theater Arts Troupe, and then there's Rainbow Theater, which is for everybody of every race.
I love that. That's super cool.
And I directed Poets Corner under Rainbow Theater. And it was such a great experience. I feel like it's such a rare experience. I I don't know. I would love more spaces like that. Just kind of just heavy on me, too, because of this thing that came out about Taraji. I don't know if you saw that. But Taraji saying, Taraji P. Henson in The Color Purple talking about that, and how she's talking about how she always feels like she has to start from the bottom, and she makes some big achievement, and then she starts from she has to start from the bottom and work her way up. And that used to happen to me, and I used to feel like, ugh, what is wrong? Like, I don't know. It made me feel like a bad actor. It made me feel untalented.
And you're not at all. But I get that feeling.
Yeah, and just having to start over, and I don't know, being in Rainbow Theater and being in ATAT just made me realize that, oh, it's not me, it's the world. But if I just surround myself around people who really understand me and who, I don't know what I go through as an actor of color, I will find peace, essentially, in myself, and I'll find confidence in myself as an artist. Because for a long time I was like competing with, I was competing with white students.
Yeah.
And literally I would be like, well, let me like change up my voice and let me like do this, so maybe I can like get this type of role,
right?
That isn't traditionally African American. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's so interesting, especially as a young student,
absolutely,
to be in that position. But yeah, I think I'm just going on.
Yeah, you're very good. So yeah, we are going to wrap it up in a little bit because we are at our hour time. But before we go, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming onto the podcast with me and having such a great conversation. I loved getting to do this with you. This was so fun. Yes. And I feel like, honestly,
thank you for having me.
Of course, I feel like if we can keep on going like so much longer too. But before we go, like briefly, do you have like any other like projects or upcoming things coming up, or like what's next for you, like after the show?
Actually, love the show. 1222 Oceanfront, loved it. It just made me realize that I just need a break from acting.
Of course.
After this, but I do want to direct more. I also write shows.
Yeah.
So look out for that. I'm thinking to start my own podcast about college.
Hey.
Yeah. About young men of color in college and how that experience is, because it's different for everybody, and how you kind of grow into yourself.
Yeah. And if you ever need a guest, please call me up. I'm just saying.
I will.
I'd love to be a guest.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, right now it's just the age of exploration. So I just have a bunch of projects that I plan to come out sometime next year. But yeah, I just feel like I need a break from acting and taking this time to explore and try other things.
And that's real. Yeah, that is real.
So look out for those.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. I'll make sure that I have like your Instagram. If there's anything else that you want me to like tag or put you in, like I'll throw that in there too. But thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it. And I hope you guys enjoyed. To all of our listeners and viewers, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day, night, evening, car ride, whenever you're listening to this podcast. And we'll see you guys later. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.